Happy Wednesday morning, everybody. Welcome into another edition of Morning JOX. Conrad Van Order, Damian Mitchell here with you for the next hour as we bring you the latest from around the world of sports and continue our march towards the beginning of the college football season. I apologize if you will get tired of this eventually, but we're going to do it every day because we're excited. We're getting closer. And we are now 24 days away from the official kickoff of college football season. That's going to be week 0, and that means we are 30 days away. So if you want to look at it like this, exactly 1 month away from Auburn and Baylor as they will do battle on August 29th, a Friday night. And then you're going to have 31 days from now, Alabama taking on Florida State down in Tallahassee. So it is, again, about as close as it can get. I know once the calendar flips to August on Friday, that a lot of you, that's really when it starts to kick in. I know a lot of you next week, kids are going to be going back to school, things like that. Maybe that's when it really starts to feel real for you. I mean, high school football is right around the corner as well. So much for us to be excited about. And of course today, so you had both Alabama and Auburn players. They, reported yesterday and, had their meetings, whatever. But today is the day you're going to get to see them actually. Well, you're not going to get to see them, but they will be on the practice field. And we're going to get to hear from both Hugh Freeze and Kalen DeBoer. Interestingly enough, both coaches, Damian, scheduled to speak around, or actually at the exact same time, at 9 a.m. this morning. So I'm sure y'all get some of that on McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. We'll, of course, bring it to you on 3-man front as well. And who knows, maybe even Paul will play a little bit of it for y'all later on this afternoon. So going to be excited to hear from both of these coaches. And again, I don't – correct me if I'm wrong, Damian. Maybe you have something that you're expecting to hear from them. But, it's probably going to be very cut and dry, very – and it'll be before their first practice too. So, you're not going to get the, great first practice. Guys were fired up. The energy was there. It's the first practice. I would hope so. We got a problem if there's not a little juice on the first day.
Right, yeah. The first day, it's kind of, they probably did their conditioning test earlier this week or anything. Probably either they did it yesterday or they're probably doing it today. But the biggest thing is just, one, make sure everybody's in shape, make sure everybody's accounted for. But like you said, it's the first day of fall practice. Like, it ain't, at this point, it's lock and load mode. Like, this is where we're starting to build depth. This is where we start to separate the ones and the twos. Who really wants to get out there? But on day one, let's just get the order of operations down. Don't want to see any loafs. Mental errors are expected, but we're not going to have those physical mistakes. Like, now it's kind of like we can start to correct in certain things, but like, as far as you ain't going to hear no coaching about effort. Like, we're not going to be discussing, if they're juiced up, ready to be out there. No, it's the real thing now. Everybody's 0-0, but also everybody's trying to figure out their depth. So I think that the first day, this is what it's going to look like. When they hand you the day by day, they know exactly what their schedule is from the time they wake up to the time they go to bed, and it is a lot of football with not much break time in between. Which I will say this. It's a little different now. With sort of the full pads rule and how many scrimmages.
You can't go quite as hard as you used to.
Right, right. But exactly every hour of the day is accounted for. Every single moment. So just get used to it.
Yeah, it's like, as we know, it's essentially a job for a lot of these guys in terms of the amount of time and work that they have to put into it, especially those that, that are hoping to turn this into a job for them long term at the next level. Okay, so you mentioned something that I need to ask you about because anybody that's seen me in real life, shocker, I was not a college athlete. I know that's so hard to believe if you've seen me in person because I look the type. I get it. But Damian, you were a college athlete, actually, as many people know, and so you brought up the conditioning drills. So what was that like for you coming back after the off season? Was it, I guess, did it kick your butt a couple times, or was it one of those things where you were always prepared for it? But I have to imagine you at least had a couple teammates that maybe every year it was like, oh, buddy, all right, you took the summer off.
Freshman year was a little bit going into freshman year, I had never experienced a college conditioning test. Yeah. So my first 2 years, we did half gassers I think it was like 20 half gassers, and speed skill had to get it, I think in like 14 to 16. And then mid skill, which is like your linebackers, quarterbacks, tight ends. I think they had like 20 to 22. And then the big skill, the linemen, essentially, they got, I think the most they had was like either 24 or 25. But It's a test to see how real were you about your conditioning.
Yeah.
Now, the first year going into it, it was brutal. It was absolutely brutal. I was like, wow, like, okay, you got to be full speed all the time. Like, oh, you really got to go out here and hustle. Like, this is a little bit different. But the 16 110s, that was a whole different ball game because it's straight. Like, it's a straight line, and it gets to a point because, again, like us receivers, we're used to running. Like, we just know, like, not only do we have to be ready for our conditioning test, like this is going to be a litmus test of just how many go balls we get this on this practice, on this install. It's more mental. I will say it's more mental because if you've done what you're supposed to do, you stuck to, your workout regimen and you stay true to it, the conditioning test is actually you build to it. So like when the actual test happens, you should be ready. You should be fine. Mm-hmm. But the first day, oh yeah, man, you'll see. You start to wean a lot of people out that first week of camp where, oh, yeah, it's like Coach Boone and Remember the Titans. So football ain't fun, is it? You're not having fun, are you? Like, after about 12, 110, no, I'm not having fun. No, I'm not having fun.
I think I'll go home, actually.
But it's the test of just your physical will. And if this is the first sign, and coaches will be able to tell, like, all right, yeah, somebody.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, it's probably pretty obvious.
Yeah, big dog. You have to do this again. And if you fail, you have to keep going until you pass. Like you have to keep. At least that's what we did. Like you had to keep going until you pass. So say if you made 13 out of the 16, they may call you up at like 5 a.m. One of the specialty coaches may say, "Hey, I'm going to be at the field at 5 o'clock. You got 3 more to pass, so you can officially pass the conditioning test, and you got to go out there and get it done." But either way, you start to wean the ones that are that have been doing what they need to do and not putting themselves behind the 8 ball before they even put the pads on. But all in all, once you get past the conditioning test, you know exactly what to expect for fall camp for the rest of the way.
I would imagine so. I was curious about what your experience was like that because I mean you hear stories about I guess like horror stories of those kinds of conditioning drills and. Yeah, I mean, you'd imagine it's pretty intense, but, I just wanted people to understand, hey, maybe this is what your favorite Alabama or Auburn player was going through yesterday. And, I mean, nothing against Birmingham Southern, but, I mean, I'm just like...
Yeah.
You imagine if that's what it was like at Birmingham Southern, what it's probably like at an SEC program, it's probably...
And we're also not dealing with the same heat that...
That's also a great point. Yesterday would have been a horrible day to have to do that. I think you'd be... Coach, you mind if we go in the indoor facility? Exactly. You think we can go in there and maybe close the doors? Yeah, that'd be fantastic. So, but if you're just now joining us, Alabama and Auburn kicking off their fall practices later on today. You're going to hear from both Kalen DeBoer and Hugh Freeze coming up a little bit later this morning as well. And we will dive into our biggest questions for Alabama heading into fall camp, just like we did for Auburn yesterday. We'll do Alabama today, coming up here around 6:30 later this morning. But we do have some big news outside of the world of college football, and unfortunately, it is big news, and that is some more bad news if you're an Atlanta Braves fan. Just when you thought that the season couldn't possibly get worse, the one, or at least the bright spot that you could have this year has been Ronald Acuna Jr., right? Since he returned from his injury earlier this year, he has been absolutely incredible. He's just been, he has been the Ronald Acuna that we are all used to seeing when he is healthy and being one of those probably 4 or 5 best players in the entirety of the game of baseball. Well, unfortunately, last night, Atlanta taking on Kansas City. So not only do the Braves drop the game last night 9-6, so they've now lost back-to-back games to the Kansas City Royals there. You did have a home run from Ozuna. He also added an RBI single a little bit later, so maybe that helps with his trade value because the trade deadline does come up tomorrow, and that's a guy we still expect to move. But it was Eric Fetty's debut for the Braves, the guy they traded for from the Cardinals. He goes 4 2/3, gives up 4 earned runs. About what you would expect for a guy with his ERA. But that's, the Braves needed somebody that could go out there and throw a baseball. So that's a move that they made. But then you had in the 6th inning, unfortunately, Ronald Acuna Jr. is removed from the game. So, of course, at first people are going, oh, my gosh, is there some crazy blockbuster trade that they're getting rid of Acuna? No, I think we all knew that wasn't the case. And unfortunately, he is now going on the 10-day injured list. So that's the good news. It's only the 10-day, right? So it's It's not immediately obvious that this is a serious injury. But where you might start to get a little more concerned is when you hear that it's because of tightness in his Achilles. That is not something that you want to mess with. So we will see how the Braves proceed here. We will see what, I guess, further testing reveals in terms of, just how fast he could come back. But I'll be completely honest. If I'm the Atlanta Braves and I'm Brian Snitker or I'm Anthopoulos or whoever else in that front office, just let it go. Sit him for the rest of the year. I wouldn't blame you if you wanted to do the same thing with Spencer Strider. Like, these are arguably your two most valuable players, your two most popular players, and they're your young superstars, and they're both coming off of major injuries this season. And at this point, I mean, your season's over. Like, I'm sorry, barring some miracle from God, like, your season's over. You're not going to make the postseason. It's a wash, and it's going to go down as one of the more disappointing seasons in recent Braves history for a lot of you. I understand that, if not the most disappointing. So there's no reason to push it. Just let Acuna rest, let Strider rest, come back next year, and try to be fully healthy and go from there. So that's unfortunate news for the Braves last night. Hopefully Acuna is going to be okay. It's not going to be something more serious. But if I'm the Braves, I think I strongly consider just calling it quits kind of for him for the rest of the season. But we will see how that situation progresses there. And quickly, I don't know if you saw this last night, but another little note from the game of Major League Baseball. So we had a trade yesterday on the deadline, or ahead of the deadline, and Sir Anthony Dominguez. I'll be honest, I didn't know who that was before the trade was made. But the reason it's interesting is it was a trade made between the Orioles and the Toronto Blue Jays. So the Orioles traded Dominguez to the Blue Jays yesterday. You might go, okay, they're in the same division. Okay, you don't see that a ton. How about in the middle of a doubleheader? So the Orioles and Blue Jays are playing a doubleheader yesterday. The first game wraps up. During that game, they complete the trade for Dominguez. So the first game, he's in the Orioles locker room and in the dugout with them. The second game, he's in the Blue Jays dugout in the locker room. And he comes into the game to pitch for the Blue Jays and gets 2 strikeouts against the team he played for 2 hours ago.
That's just insane.
Wild.
That's insane.
Absolutely wild.
Yeah. And the fact that, one, that you have a jersey ready for him and everything, like, it's the business side of baseball, because, like, we've heard stories like this, but to see it happen just in real time, of, like, imagine you just getting done with the first game. It's like, hey, yeah, you're going on the other side.
Yep.
Yeah, huh? I beg your pardon? Like, yeah, just go ahead and go to the other bullpen. Like, am I being Yeah.
Yes, you
are.
To
the team that we're playing right now.
Yeah, just an absolutely wild situation. So he spoke with the media after the game, and this is essentially how he said it went down. According to Dominguez, quote, "After the first game, I was in the dugout with the guys. They call me and they tell me, hey, we got you traded. Go over to the next dugout." That was what he was told.
Like, that's wild.
And so he did that, and he then went into the game and struck out 2 guys for against his former team. So, yeah, just a really bizarre situation there. But one of the fun stories that you kind of get to see, just how professional sports works, and you are always reminded that it is a business first, and whether you take it personally or not, I guess that's up to you. But
right, I imagine telling your family like, "Oh yeah, we got the Orioles this weekend, and we got the Blue Jays this weekend, and I'll be going to Toronto once I leave here." Like,
I mean, at least you got revenge pretty quickly, right? Like, if you're bitter about it, you're like, all right, let's go. Let's go.
It's like, yeah, I'm going to be actually hopping on the next plane out with this team.
Yeah. So it is, just a wild situation there, but a pretty cool story coming out of the MLB trade deadline. So that's a lot of what you missed last night in the world of Major League Baseball. But somebody that's a good friend of ours here on JOX, he does a great job covering the sport of college football around the country. He put out his predictions for his college football playoff, and he has an SEC team winning it all, but it's not Alabama, it's not Texas, it's not Georgia.
Tennessee?
We'll tell you who it is and how he breaks down his college football playoff next here on Morning JOX. 6:19, welcome back in. Morning Jocks here on your Wednesday morning. Conrad and Damian with you. About to dive into some college football playoff predictions because fall camp is starting today, but we still have a little bit of time before we actually could break down the X's and O's and get to that week 0, week 1 time period where we're breaking down the matchups each and every week. So we will get to that here in just a moment.
How about we celebrate the kickoff to college football? And you can do it with us at the Bill Smith Buick GMC Jocks Kickoff Party at Regents Field on Thursday, August 21st. And the only way to go is by winning tickets. To win a pair of tickets for you and a guest, text the keyword PARTY. That's keyword PARTY and your full name to 205-834-9450. Again, the keyword is PARTY, your full name at 205-834-9450. Winners are drawn and notified daily. For more information, visit jocksfm.com.
And we really can't wait for that. I mean, that event is so much fun every single year, and we enjoy getting the time to, just go out. And, we get to see a lot of you out, especially now when we do things like Social Taco for 3-Man Front or different events around town. But it's always nice for the kickoff party because everyone's excited. Everyone's just you're just hanging out, talking ball, maybe drinking a cold one and watching some baseball. So it doesn't get a whole lot better than that. So we look forward to seeing a lot of you out there in just over 3 weeks. 3 weeks from tomorrow will be our Jocks kickoff party that Damian was just telling you about. All right, let's get to these college football playoff predictions. And this is from somebody that was our neighbor there in Atlanta for SEC Media Days, Mr. J.D. Piquel of On3 Sports. So he revealed last night this is his projection for the college football playoff. And the reason that I wanted to talk about this one is because it's unique. It is a lot different than the other ones that we've seen. So we'll go through this real quick here, and coming up in about 10 minutes, we're going to start talking Alabama and some of our questions for them heading into fall camp. But quickly, we'll go through, starting at the 12 seed this year for J.D. Piquel. He has James Madison. That's going to be your group of 6 representative in the playoff, according to his projections. James Madison, and they're going to take on the 5 seed Oregon Ducks. So that'll be your first matchup.
Okay.
Oregon's going to win. Don't think that's a big surprise. All right, then you're going to have at your 11-6 matchup, you're going to have the 11 seed Notre Dame taking on the 6 seed Penn State. So a rematch of the semifinal game last year. He has Penn State winning that one.
Okay.
Then our 10-7 matchup, this is the interesting one. The 10 seed Baylor Bears taking on the 7 seed Texas A&M Aggies.
Excuse me?
Yep. And Baylor's going to win.
Okay. Old Big 12 matchup.
Yes. So, yeah. And then the 8-9 matchup, familiar. You're going to get number 9 Alabama against the 8 seed Georgia. And he has Alabama winning.
Okay.
So just to recap real quick, James Madison versus Oregon, Bama versus Georgia, Notre Dame versus Penn State, and Baylor versus A&M. That would be your first round games, according to J.D. Piquel's predictions. All right, now we'll move on to the second round. So Alabama, they move on to face the 1 seed, the LSU Tigers.
So LSU, Texas A&M, Alabama, Georgia.
Oh, wait. He has Oregon, who beat James Madison, playing Texas, who's the 4 seed, so they got a bye. So 5 SEC teams are in the college football playoff, according to J.D. Piquel. You have LSU, Texas, Georgia, Alabama, and A&M. So you've got Texas and Oregon, they would play, just like Alabama and LSU would play. And he has LSU beating Alabama and Oregon beating Texas.
Okay.
So one of your semifinals would be LSU versus Oregon. Now, on the other side of the bracket, he did have Baylor beating Texas A&M, and they would take on the 2 seed Ohio State. He has Ohio State moving on.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had Penn State knocking off Notre Dame to face the 3 seed Clemson in the next round. Clemson is going to win that game. So your 2 semifinals now, you have LSU versus Oregon on one side of the bracket. You have Ohio State Clemson on the other side of the bracket.
Wouldn't be upset if those are the matchups.
I don't know. Once you get to that 4, I don't think that's crazy. I think LSU would maybe be the biggest surprise out of those 4.
Right.
So he has LSU taking down the Oregon Ducks to advance to the national championship game. He has Ohio State knocking off Clemson to advance to the national championship game. And the LSU Bengal Tigers are J.D. Piquel's pick to win the national championship in 2025 over the defending champion Ohio State Buckeyes.
Okay. Not necessarily the group of teams that I thought that would be there.
Not the craziest final matchup, though, that you could have ever drawn up, but
how we got there.
Baylor and Texas A&M?
Yeah, that's where.
And look, I like JD. He's a super nice guy. I've gotten to meet him a number of times. And again, I mean, we hung out with him a lot at Media Days, and he's been on a lot of the shows here on JOX. But I would be very interested to know how he got to certain I'm just saying. I mean, and again, I'm just saying, like, all right, so in this example, and this is his projection. So LSU's the 1 seed, so they win the SEC championship. Texas is the 4 seed, so they're the runner-up, right? But then A&M is the 7 seed, so they would be the 3rd team in the SEC based on this, because Georgia and Alabama are 8 and 9 seeds. So I mean, that's telling me you've got to have A&M. I guess they're going 10-2,
right,
in the regular season, and maybe Alabama or Georgia, maybe one of those schools is like a 9-3 team that somehow sneaks in, because otherwise you've got 5 teams winning at least 10 games in the SEC.
And then Georgia and Alabama play each
tough.
other.
Yeah, exactly.
And then LSU plays Alabama.
Georgia and Texas play each other.
Georgia and Texas play each other.
A&M and Texas play each other.
Yeah.
LSU and A&M play each other.
Right. So there's
I don't know how
some carnage going on around there.
I don't know how it works, but that is just one of the more entertaining projections that I've seen. He mixed it up a little, and maybe that's part of it. Is hey, a lot of people are picking the same stuff. Let me throw a wrench in there a little bit. But I will say, when we were in Atlanta for Media Days, he was very high on LSU, and he even told us, like, I'm picking LSU to win the SEC championship. I didn't know the national championship, but he's sticking by what his gut was telling him and what he was, thinking a couple weeks ago. So but yeah, Texas A&M and Baylor in the first round of the college football playoff. That would make Desmond Howard happy. He had both of them in the playoff a couple years ago, right?
He did.
And Pitt, right?
They were also in there.
And Michigan, I think that was the 4.
That was it, yeah. He got one.
He did get one.
He
did get one. So that was just a interesting exercise there as again, we're getting closer and closer to kickoff, so these lists and projections will start going away, and thankfully will be replaced with actual breakdowns of the games and matchup previews and things like that. But it's always fun still to check around and see what people are saying because, people are getting antsy now, right? We can all taste it a little bit, and people start getting a little antsy, so some of these lists start getting a little more interesting. So if you have any interesting thoughts on J.D. Piquel's playoff pick of LSU winning the national championship, 5 SEC teams making it, according to him: LSU, Texas, Texas A&M, Alabama, and Georgia. You can weigh in on the text line 205-834-9450. We would also like to hear, what are your big question marks for the Alabama Crimson Tide as they hit the practice field for the first time this fall later on today? Me and Damian, just like we did yesterday for Auburn, will share our biggest question mark for the Crimson Tide going into fall camp. What do we need to learn about them before August 30th to feel confident that this team can make it back to the college football playoff? We will discuss and get your reaction here next on Morning JOX. Welcome back into the Wednesday edition of Morning JOX. Conrad and Damian here with you. Appreciate you, all of you fine listeners, making us a part of your morning each and every day here on JOX. And today is a great day here in the state of Alabama, as both Auburn and Alabama are hitting the practice field for the first time this fall. Fall camp is officially here. And again, if you're just now joining us, you will get to hear from both Hugh Freeze and Kalen DeBoer coming up later this morning. Both are set to address the media around 9 o'clock as they kick off fall practice. From what I understand, I think Auburn's practice starts around 9:50 and Alabama's around 11 o'clock. So I'll just say this: I'd rather be an Auburn player today.
Whew.
Don't think I'd be wanting to deal with that heat around 11 o'clock, but, I know Auburn will still be out there, obviously, but get a little bit of a head start.
Yeah, they'll be wrapping it up when Alabama's just getting started, and I think the heat index is supposed to be, about 200 today?
It's not going to be good.
It's going to be uncomfortable.
It is, it is absolutely not going to be good, but just like we did yesterday, If you were listening to the show yesterday, we spent some time with Auburn kind of going through what some of our question marks were for Auburn this upcoming year. We talked about offensive line play, running back room. We talked a little bit on the defensive side, in the kind of in the front seven there defensively. Can some of the young guys continue to make strides? And now we look to Alabama. And as we did yesterday, the caveat being, we all know quarterback is probably the biggest question mark for both of these teams, because if these quarterbacks are busts, then things start to look in limbo. But we all understand, right, with the talent that they should have around them, if these quarterbacks hit in Jackson Arnold and Ty Simpson, then the ceiling is probably very, very high for both of these teams this year. So what are our question marks outside of Ty Simpson and Jackson Arnold? And for Alabama, specifically looking at, I feel like for them, it's pretty easy. And we kind of talked about this, I think, last week maybe, with some of like the what ifs for Alabama. But outside of Ty Simpson, I mean, I think it's the pass rush. I think that's the easy way you go and look. I think you could also say, what is the running game going to look like? Because it's fair to ask that question, because last year, I mean, it was Milroe. That was mainly your running game. And now this year, you're going to have a more traditional run game you would expect. And I think it's fair to have questions about that. But I do think for Alabama, the biggest question mark has to be pass rush, just because you've got a lot of guys that decided to stay an extra year and come back, like LT Overton. Tim Keenan's back. You've got James Smith. You got Quay Russaw. But, I mean, particularly Keenan and Overton. And Overton, I mean, he would have been a second-round pick, or that was his projection if he had gone into the draft in April. But now you've gone in, you brought in a Kelby Collins, a guy that's played here at Florida in the SEC, maybe with a little bit of an expanded role. That's somebody that we could see develop into a really nice piece for Alabama. Quay Russaw, again, he's a redshirt sophomore, but the potential for him is really, really, really high. Can he be, one of those next great guys off of the edge for Alabama? And that's really, for me, that's where a lot of it comes down to with my question marks for Alabama. Because last year we saw the secondary, I think, is probably the secondary and wide receivers, very similar to Auburn, actually, are probably the two groups I have the least question marks about with Alabama. But I think when you start looking on that defense, you feel good about what you got at linebacker. I know Deontay Lawson's dealing with an injury. Justin Jefferson, though, now stepping in, getting another year, which was big. You got Nakai Hill-Green, who came over in the portal as well. He's a big-time player. But it's just, what are you going to get going after the quarterback? Because you left a lot to be desired last year. I've said this many times. There was too many times last year where you saw particularly LT Overton get into the backfield and not be able to make a play on the quarterback for whatever reason. And that's something that Alabama has to shore up this year. And if you want to get back to, I'm not saying the Saban days of the Alabama defense back in 2011 or anything like that, but, a 2015 or 2016 caliber defense, you're going to need some guys that can go and get after the quarterback. So I think that's probably my biggest question for Alabama is who is going to step up on the defensive line, who's going to step up on the edge and be that wrecking ball, be that force of nature coming off the line of scrimmage for the Tide.
Yeah, and I kind of I have like a two-parter because it's both dealing with – it deals with both sides of the ball. It's just, what's Alabama's identity going to be? Like, what is this team really going to look like? Kind of starting at the quarterback position, whoever the starter is, I want it to be one of those, it's not a quarterback looking over their shoulder. It's, no, this is our guy. This is who we're rocking with.
Yeah.
No more of this, week 5 mess of.
We're not doing the Cooper Bateman, Jake Coker thing again. Yeah.
Nope. I want to know week 1. No, don't just tell me that, hey, if we started a game today, Ty Simpson is our starting quarterback. That's what I want it to be. And also, can Alabama find ways to put these games away? Like, can Richard Young, can Jam Miller, can they actually be those hammers that you need in the running back position? Can they line it up and say, you know what, we are about to run inside zone. Yes, we know we have great receivers out there and on the perimeter, but this game is, we're doing the 4-minute drill where it's time to put a team away. This is what we're going to do. Hammer right here, hammer to the left, hammer to the right. Like, it's no cookie cutter. Like, this is exactly what we're going to do. And I think defensively, can you sustain some of the success that you had on the backside of the season as opposed to the beginning of the season? Because I do think that it was fresh early on. and Kane Wallman was just trying to get people in position to know, like, hey, this is your job. This is what you need to do. And you saw it against Missouri when he put the 2s in, and as Missouri started to drive, they called a timeout, put the 1s back in, they stopped them at the goal line. Keep that same energy. I think for Alabama, with all the pieces that you have coming back are very, very important pieces. On top of that, can they get everybody on board? Where instead of, by week 6, they're starting to figure out, can they do that from week 1? Can they start the season off against Florida State saying, this is the Alabama defense. No, it may not look like the suffocating defenses of old, but they know exactly where they need to be. They know exactly what they need to execute, how they need to execute at a high level to take the load off of whoever is at quarterback for saying, like, hey, you got to go out there and score 30. No, you can score 17 and we'll be just fine. Like, we will be just fine. So I think just the identity as a whole for Alabama, like, I'm ready to hear that, hey, the defense won. The defense won today's scrimmage. Like, Kane Wallman's got those boys rocking. And no matter who is at quarterback, it's, man, okay, whenever we do get our chance, we know on Saturday that defense is going to keep us in the ball game no matter what.
And I think you have a unique opportunity, with what you're talking about going up against Florida State. And I'm, I don't think that the players or the coaches are looking at it like this. Let's be honest. A lot of them probably don't even have that many memories of Gus Malzahn being at Auburn and going up against Alabama.
Right.
Like, a lot of them probably don't even really understand that dynamic of it. But I think for the fan base, right, if the defense has a strong game against a running quarterback led in a Gus Malzahn offense, that's going to inspire a lot of confidence within the fan base, right? The players and the coaches will be happy. You're like, hey, we executed what we were trying to do. But I think it means a little more potentially even for the fan base of, this is something that we've seen Alabama struggle with defensively. For the last 20 years, but even last year, right? It was, and that was always kind of the thing with Nick Saban was, if you have a running quarterback, that's really going to be your best way to beat Alabama. And that was, look at what Pavia did last year. Look at what Jackson Arnold did last year. There's a reason that Michigan played Alex Orji last year in limited time against like you saw that there were opportunities there. With those matchups, and if Alabama can go and shut down Castellanos and a Gus Malzahn offense who's going to run the ball a lot, I think that's going to inspire a lot of confidence moving forward after that first week. So I really do think that first week, like you said, can you come out against Florida State and say, this is who we are as a defense, and go out there and execute that and be consistent with it over the course of the year? I did want to throw this stat out there to kind of go along with that, as well as what I was saying about the pass rush. So last year, Damian, there were 2 schools in the SEC that had less sacks than Alabama did. Do you want to guess who they were?
Vanderbilt.
Nope.
Okay. Mississippi State.
Yes.
And I'm going to say Kentucky.
That would be correct.
Oh boy.
And I honestly wouldn't have guessed Kentucky because they had a good defense. Like, they had some dudes. But they were bad. But anyway, so Kentucky, they had 24 sacks last year. Total. Oh, wait. So they had 24. Mississippi State had 10 the entire year. Not even a sack a game. 10. Alabama had 25.
Oh, okay. Still 15 more, but.
Yeah, but Alabama, but 25 sacks over the entire season. To compare and contrast, and this is a sidebar, but when we talk about Ole Miss and why we're not worried about the offense, but worried about the defense a little bit, Ole Miss led the SEC in sacks last year with 52.
Oh, boy.
That's a lot of that's a big number you're trying to replicate yet again. So, yeah, they had more than double the amount of sacks. Who would have ever thought you would say that a Lane Kiffin-led Ole Miss team had more than double the number of sacks that Alabama's defense did last year?
Pete Golden.
That has got to change.
Pete Golden. It's the Pete Golden effect.
It maybe you're right, Damian.
You couldn't stand him in the crimson uniform. You couldn't stand him. And now look at him. He's over there in Oxford, Mississippi, having one of the best defenses you ever seen.
Right. Well, we'll see what that looks like this year with a full new cast of what? They got 11 new dudes up there probably. Maybe 10. Maybe one guy stuck around. I don't know. But, but again, that's jarring. And that's why I go pass rush when I think about question marks, because that has absolutely got to be better. And, I mean, the defense in the second half of last season, I think we all agree, was significantly better. Now, the Oklahoma game was rough. It doesn't help when your quarterback, gives the ball to the other team in plus territory multiple times on back-to-back drives at that. But we're moving on. We're moving on. So those are our question marks for Alabama there. Damian wants to know, what is the identity for this team going to be? Are they going to be a team that comes out week one and they are set at their positions, they are set at quarterback, and they are ready to roll with that crew for the rest of the season? My question mark, pass rush, can you be more of a presence off of the edge there? Because Alabama, third worst in the SEC last year in sacks. Need to see that number get a lot higher. But some of you chiming in on the Courtesy GMC text line, 205-834-9450, and we encourage you to do that as we ask you to send in your concerns. What's going on in your head for this Alabama team? What do you want to hear from Kalen DeBoer today when he addresses the media as we continue to get you ready for the upcoming college football season? So we'll hear from you. Get your reaction on what you want to see and hear from Alabama this fall next on JOX.
.648 here on Morning JOX. Damian Mitchell, Conrad Van Order, and you as well, our wonderful listeners. And, hey, our wonderful listeners can celebrate the kickoff to college football with us at the Bill Smith Buick GMC JOX kickoff party at Regents Field on Thursday, August 21st. And the only way to go is by winning tickets. To win a pair of tickets for you and a guest, text the keyword party and your full name to 205-834-9450. That's keyword party, your full name, at 205-834-9450. Winners are drawn and notified daily. For more information, visit joxfm.com.
And we absolutely hope to see you out there. And just over 3 weeks from tomorrow, will be our JOX kickoff party. And here we are talking a little bit about Alabama fall camp, as both them and Auburn will get on the practice field for the first time today. And so we've been going through the last 2 days, our question marks for Alabama and Auburn heading into fall camp in the 2025 season. And we'll get to some of your text here in just a second, but a little bit of housekeeping, 2 notes from around the SEC. So we told you yesterday about DJ Lagway, how he's dealing with a calf injury. He's in a walking boot and a little bit in jeopardy for fall camp. So Billy Napier yesterday didn't make it seem like it was that bad, kind of like a day-to-day situation. The expectation is he will be ready to play in week 1. And that's excellent news. That's exactly what you want to hear. My only question would be, how much time has he gotten this offseason actually on the field with the team taking actual reps? Because he had the shoulder injury and he couldn't throw a football for months while he was recovering. And now you've got this going on. And so you hope that he's able to get on the field at least a little bit for fall camp, because you need to be out there. You got to work on that chemistry. And that's super, super important. So even if he's ready for week 1, that's great, but you absolutely want to see him out there and getting reps before that. You also have on the Tennessee front, Damian, your former team, Boo Carter, the defensive back who was a really talented freshman last year, made a big impact for them, was figured to be a big factor for them this year. He is not being kicked off the team, according to Josh Heupel yesterday. He's gonna have to do some things to earn, his playing time back on the field. But from what I understand, he missed a number of workouts and basically just was no showing to team activities in the offseason. And so they're working through that, but he will not be kicked off the team. And that's somebody that if you're able to get him right between the ears, I mean, he could be an elite player on the defensive side of the ball. So he was very, very good last year as a freshman.
Yeah, just handle it in-house. I think Josh is doing the right thing. And, you don't want to give up on kids just right after, they make a mistake. Maybe it's something that he's dealing with internally. But the fact that Coach Heupel is like, hey, you're not kicked off, but you have to earn the trust back. You got to put the work in.
Yep.
And that's what it comes down to.
You are absolutely right. So we will see how that situation continues to progress there at Tennessee, but looks like Boo Carter will be a part of the team this fall. All right, to the text line we go, 205-834-9450, presented by our friends at Courtesy GMC. Chris chimes in on the text line. He says, for Alabama, besides quarterback, pass rush is definitely a question for me, and can the running backs be consistent when needed? I think the running game is, maybe not in the sense of you don't have faith that Jam Miller or Richard Young or any of those guys can do the job. It's just, again, kind of like what Damian was saying with his question mark, like, what's your identity going to be offensively? Like, how much of an emphasis are you going to put on running the ball? But I go back to, again, the last time you had Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb together in Washington, you had Dylan Johnson, who, funny enough, he had transferred out of the SEC. He ran for 1,200 yards and 16 touchdowns. So, there is a track record there of them, relying on a running back and them putting up pretty good numbers. So we will definitely have to see what happens there. Antoine chimes in. He says, why does LSU always get the benefit of the doubt every year? They never live up to the hype. And we've had a couple times in the past few years where people have projected them to win the title, and they didn't even make the playoff. But
because people have won with like lesser head coaches than Brian Kelly, like Ed Orgeron, for example. He's won a national champion.
Well, their last 3 head coaches,
right?
Edo, Brian Kelly, or Les Miles and Saban, all won.
Right. And it's Brian Kelly has shown that he's been a winner everywhere he's gone. It's just like it's now you have the perfect recipe. You're in the perfect situation.
You would think.
You would think like
you had a Heisman Trophy winner a couple years ago.
Right.
And I would say, I mean, I think Brian Kelly's a better coach than definitely Ed Orgeron, but also Les Miles.
Yeah.
And you haven't been able to win a title. You haven't even made it to a college football playoff. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, I understand where you're coming from there, Antoine. I do think LSU makes the playoff this year. I do not think they win the national title, but I do think that this is, kind of the year that it sets up for them. And it better. Let's just put it that way. Someone else chimes in. They say, there are really 6 teams in the SEC that could make the playoffs. My only concern is that we don't beat each other up like basketball season and only get 3 in like last season. And that is possible. That is possible. I mean, you had 6 teams knocking on the door, I guess, or in the mix last year, and only 3 got in. And as we all know, Alabama, Ole Miss, and South Carolina were the 3 teams right there on the outside looking in. So we'll see if that happens again this year. Barry chimes in from Anniston. Says, offensive line is my big concern for Alabama. We hear the guys are going to be a strength, but a lot of the same pieces are there minus the best player in Tyler Booker, and they honestly didn't get the job done last year. And that's where I am with the O-line. It's great that PFF wants to go out there and say they have the best offensive line in college football. Man, I've heard that for the last 2 or 3 years that they're going to have the best. Oh, look how big they are. Got to be able to move. Got to be able to move a little bit. So maybe this is the year that Alabama's O-line actually lives up to the hype, but we will have to wait and see. Someone says Ryan Williams is my question mark. Outside of some spectacular plays, he sort of didn't show up.
It's called good coverage as well. They wouldn't let 2 beat you.
I didn't see a lot of other players out there having as many passes just errantly thrown their way.
Yeah.
He had opportunities that were not delivered to him. I will just say it this way. Yeah. And Don finishes up. He says, this is probably the most important fall camp Auburn has ever had. So they will kick things off here in a couple of hours. We're back tomorrow at 6 a.m. Day 1 recap of fall camp, but McElroy and Kublik in the morning. They're next.